Hello. Hey, hopefully this is working. It's me, Domotro, the teacher of combo class, and I decided tonight, why not do a little live stream here on YouTube? Because I plan on live streaming a bit more to share some of my thoughts and my process as I work through some math problems and collect some clocks and etc. And I figured tonight might be a good night to kick and share some more details about what goes on inside the combo class and inside my mind, and some spoilers of some upcoming episodes. And if any viewers happen to drop by and have any questions, they can feel free to ask. So, first off, I want to thank all of my people who have watched all the videos here so far. People love short videos online these days, and I've been wanting to make a longer educational show for a while that I put out on my main combo class channel. But since I knew people loved watching short things, and I wanted to hook people on a lot of the little nuggets of mathematical and scientific stuff that I love, I don't know if these are facing the right direction or not. I might need to fix that. But for now, I want to just explain that as I was making my long videos, one day one of my friends was like, why not start making some shorter videos? And I actually first started posting them on TikTok about in April of this year, in the middle of that month. And I don't use TikTok really. I like YouTube. I've used YouTube for a long time, since practically the year it came out. I've been in love with it. But I decided to start posting on TikTok because everyone was there. All of these different sorts of people love using that app, although I'm not as much of the fan of scrolling through that app as much as YouTube. And the videos were doing great on there, and they still are. And I have about 30,000 combo lords following there. But then at the beginning of this month, today is the last day of September. And on the first day of September, I decided to start launching my short videos here on YouTube too. Why not put them on a side channel, a little bonus channel, so that people who don't want to go on the TikTok app can go on there too, and where I might have a bonus channel to rant about some of my streaming ideas or some side projects that don't make it on the whole channel and stuff. And now we've already got quite a few combo lords joined here at the bonus channel as well, which is awesome. So thank you all. And I'm planning on continuing to make short videos any day I can, because I just find it motivational. I have so many notes about something I've found interesting, and my own take on how that connects to something else, or a diagram that I think could use to, visualize it in a way I haven't seen in the world before. And so each day I just scroll through my notes and treat it like a motivational part of my day, to go through my notes and figure out what I'm going to make a short video out of for that day. Get a friend or family member to help me along behind the camera, maybe get splattered with a little debris. It's a little crazy out in the combo class. Luckily, I got some good friends and family to help me. And each day I try and share a shorter idea with you guys while I work on my longer episodes, as well as some whole books I'm writing. Now, some of my books are fiction books that I don't want to spoil the titles of now, but there will be a stream for that before long. And others are math books I want to drop before long, including an entire book about threvens and throds, a concept that might seem too simple to write an entire book about, but I swear I've investigated threvens and throds enough that threvens and throds combined with evens and odds have enough content to fill multiple books. So there could be a whole book about threvens coming before long. I think there should also be more math books written in a sort of choose your own adventure sort of structure that lets you hop from one topic to another. The value of sites like Wikipedia or hyperlinked websites, where you can fall down a rabbit hole of one topic into another, somewhat by your choice. And sometimes you have to re-stumble back through that maze to really understand a topic, to encounter it from multiple hyperlinks or perspectives or whatever. So I want to write some math books that are sort of choose your own adventures. I also just had a lot of fun with choose your own adventure type books as a kid. That main choose your own adventure series, as well as the ones, if any of you read Goosebumps books, the Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventures. Oh man, I collected those as a kid. I didn't get them all, but I was so excited when I'd get a new one. Those were dope. So shout out to R.L. Stein, and shout out to whoever made the other Choose Your Own Adventure series, I guess. And in any case, I want to write more math books, but I'm perfectionist about those. So for now, Videoland. I love making videos as well. Keep up the videos. Thank you, Kevin, in the comments. Remember, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer those as well while I'm streaming. I also just want to chat with you guys while I share more in depth into my brain and stuff. Let me think of some stories I do want to share here that maybe I've shared with only, some random other streams on other websites that I didn't save, or maybe only shared in some posts online that would be hard to track down. One thing I want to share with you guys are some stories about how I fell in love with numbers and how they connect to other things. One story from way back in the day that always comes to my mind when I see the golden ratio, which is that classic irrational number, the one that's often held up there in high esteem with the numbers pi and e, and may deserve that credit because although it's not a transcendental number like those, and it doesn't have quite as many geometric applications, it has some really cool traits, like being the irrational number that is in some ways the hardest to approximate with fractions. It's the one whose continued fraction is just only ones. And so there's some interesting things about the golden ratio. Even just being the ratio, that the larger to the smaller is the whole to the larger. Got to be something fundamental there. Although there are ways it's overrated in nature and stuff. Some people say it's in every single shell. That stuff's a little overrated. But there are beautiful mathematical properties of it. And it does show up in certain aspects of growth in nature and certain flowers. Now, my story about the golden ratio, that always reminds me of a way that math originally hooked me and taught me that it's not a boring thing the way that some schools try and get you to think it is. They drill too many equations in you sometimes before showing you a fun, fundamental sense of what these equations mean and some beauty behind them. Paul says, I love the style. Keep it up. Thank you, Paul. And back when I was in 7th grade, I was kind of a math geek, although later in high school and part of my college years, I actually was more of a slacker who was into music and doing wild stuff. And I actually skipped a lot of classes later in my years and stuff, but I was always in advanced math classes while I was taking classes. And I was sort of a geek with that, although me and my friends had all sorts of hobbies. When I look back on it, a lot of them were geeky math stuff, like we liked Rubik's Cubes. We tried to memorize a bunch of the digits of pi, and they're still stuck in my head, just like without having to try to rememorize this. Just from a game that I played in 6th grade, I still know that it starts 3.14159265358, and then I kind of get lost. But we tried to memorize like 100 digits back in the day, and stuff like that. And one of the things that I remember was I was in 7th grade with 8th graders in math class. And there's some wild stories of when I was in 8th grade and they sent us to the high school with the 9th graders because they had this weird system of actually having us as 8th graders go to the high school and walk back and stuff. But anyway, a year before that, in 7th grade, I was just with the 8th graders in my high school. And I was thinking I was amazing at math, and because I just love numbers and stuff, and I'm good at figuring stuff out, but without the right context, nobody's good at a problem. And so they were like, oh, so when you see that we've gone 1, 0, 1 with our numbers and our coordinate, we know this is called a parabola. And I'd never even heard of parabola. And it was because they had all taken pre-algebra and they had skipped me in that, was why I was a year ahead with a couple of the other ones. And so I was like, what the hell's a parabola? And then I went home and I learned it was like this curve. And I was like, what does the fact that you saw it like dip down and dip back tell you it has to be this curve or whatever? And then I started like researching that a little bit in the class and trying to figure out. And I'm like, okay, they're talking about this thing called x squared, and they're talking about traits it has at different points. And they were noting how, like, okay, at 1, it's equal to itself. At 2, it's equal to 2 more than itself when you square the number. And then I was really bored on the track in gym. You had to run laps around this big old track. I was dead bored running around this track. And so I was thinking about numbers in my head. And I was thinking, okay, I just came out of this math class and I was thinking how x squared when you plug in 1 is itself, 0 more than itself. When you plug in 2, it's 2 more than itself. What number when you square it is 1 more than itself? Maybe 1.5. It's got to be somewhere in that in between range, right? And I started multiplying that in my head and I'm like, no, it's a little short. And I got to the point where I was like, I need to check a calculator on this. And when I messed around on a calculator later, I was like, okay, there's some important number that's about 1.6 something. And then I forgot about it for years. And then multiple years later, I started hearing about this thing, the golden ratio. And I was like, oh, cool. It has these applications in these different, wait, 1.618. It's my old friend from the gym track and the calculator afterward. And sometimes you stumble upon a little pattern that, if you pay attention to it, will show up in an entirely different place later and show you the beauty of how things connect. And that's part of why I called this combo class, is that it's not just about teaching single fun things about math or science, but I think I've seen a lot of beauty in their interconnected nature, in different ways in which numbers can be similar to growth patterns in nature, or in the ways shapes show up in our world, or even philosophy and stuff. So connecting things from all angles can be fun. And I just wanted to share that little story of one of the first times that I was like, whoa, math has something cool and deep to it, was stumbling across this number that I didn't even know at the time. There were infinite decimal digits. I was trying to figure out the last decimal digit. What a hopeless task. There were infinite. It's an irrational number. So had I sat at my calculator long enough, I never would have gotten to the end of the decimal of what number you square is one more than itself. But eventually I stumbled back upon that number. So that's an old friend. Of course, I can't rate it higher than E or pi because those are pretty classic. Might have to tie the three. Keep revealing beauty, says Abhishek, and doing great work, man. Love from India. Thank you. I love that I have viewers from all around. Thanks for the comment. Enokan, not sure how to pronounce that. Sarah Enokan says, why do I have so many clocks? Funny that you ask. I'm actually going to reveal more details about that in the next YouTube episode, which I've already filmed, which is the start of a mini series that I want to do on my main combo class channel called Clock Quest. While I'll continue collecting the clocks, as you'll see why, and I will explain more about the clocks, and I will explain a lot of fun random clock math I've learned. And at the heart of it, much of it is going to come back to what's known as modular arithmetic, where if I tick 13 hours around a clock from noon, I end up at 1. And in something called modular arithmetic, 13 is congruent to 1 in a land called mod 12. And modular arithmetic is super awesome, has some super beautiful applications, and some of them are kind of hard to digest. And so the harder to digest ones, I'm going to turn into facts about clocks to teach you guys. And other facts about weekdays and other things like that you'll see. Now, with the clocks, I will say that a lot of it relates to, I may have mentioned earlier in the stream, I was posting videos on TikTok before on here, and I got into a sort of a challenge with my fans or viewers on there. Now, if you want part of the clock backstory as to why I got my first 10 clocks, you can just go on the main Combo Class YouTube channel and look at the first episode. And that has a little story of part of why I like clocks and why I have like the first 10. As for why I have so many, some of that is this weird stuff back and forth with me and my fans on TikTok that you'd have to see the videos there, that I will compile the important moments of in the YouTube video that you will see soon. It also relates to why I have a lot of dice. And who wants to guess in the comments how many dice I have? Am I rich? I'm not. I get them from thrift stores, and I got a bunch as a birthday gift, and my friends try and find them for me and stuff. Unfortunately, not rich at all, but I am surviving. What college did I graduate from? Good question, but I took a somewhat unconventional path. I only got a 2-year degree from local city colleges around the Bay Area, although I was accepted into UC colleges and some colleges that a lot of people would want to go to and brag about going to. There were money reasons, and there were personal things I was working on in life that made me not want to pursue that as much. I was studying a lot of music at the time, and I ended up becoming a music teacher while I was studying and just running retail at a music shop where I developed my music teaching skills and stuff while I was going to college. And after 2 years or so of college, I ended up stopping, taking a few other classes for fun. And I have studied a lot since then. I study books all the time. I love reading. I love writing and figuring out my own patterns and experimenting. And reading really is where I've learned most of my knowledge, from between paper books, which I love paper books. They're underrated these days. and also online resources. There's great places to read online too. So I spend a good portion of my day reading, and I think I'm doing a more productive type of learning there than I would have gotten during finishing certain portions of college. So I took an unconventional path. Combo class is not against college, but combo class is a different form of college. And I went the strange route of learning to teach a bunch of students, not continuing college, and deciding to make videos so I could widespread my teaching. I have a lot of stuff. Yeah, I do. So basically, I do spend all of my extra money on the cheapest, like things like dice I can find, but clocks are too expensive to buy bulk. So those I get used. And I go to this place around town called Urban Ore, where they have like giant old used desks and stuff. I bought out all of their cheap clocks, and I look around. I asked on the app next door, and some people gave me free clocks from my neighborhood. Um, how do I find topics for my videos? A lot of them are reading something and then writing it down, and later when I see it in a new context, or I find my own way of phrasing it or my own way of visualizing it that I don't think has been presented exactly before, then representing a topic that was introduced to me often in something I read, that was discovered by some mathematician or another. Some of my topics I figure out myself because I like playing around with numbers a lot. Um, 512 dice, good guess, but you're going to have to guess a little more. But 512 is a good guess. And so I'm going to give you guys the answer. I promised in a strange promise, which you will see more about in the next full YouTube video, to buy at least 1,000 dice. I already had a lot, so I bought 1,000 more. So if you count ones that are little like this, and you count every size, and you count every amount of sides, I have about 1,400 dice, which is absurd, I know. But dice are actually really cheap. So I bought a lot, and then I bought them bulk. And now they got scattered everywhere in the combo class out here. And then when it rains, they get embedded in the ground a little bit. And I'm just waiting for it to keep happening, and I'll have like a dice carpet out here. By the way, I'm just going through the comments one at a time. So if I don't get to yours, I'll get to yours as I go through them. But you are rich in personality. Thank you, my friend. Has anyone called me Jack Harlow before? Yes, everyone on TikTok is like, oh my God, I think I'm the funniest person in the universe because I called him Math Harlow. Oh my God, I'm going to break a gut laughing. It's such a knee slapper, I'm going to shatter my kneecap. So yeah, I've heard a lot of like, oh my God, you're Jack Harlow's cousin, or like, I didn't know Jack Harlow studied this, or like, uh, um, the off-brand Jack Harlow or whatever, or Jack Harlow real fell off. Or I've heard a lot of those. Ironically, I have released a lot of rap music in the past. You guys don't know about it because I haven't shared the links. I bet someone could find it, but you don't need to go searching. I'll share it before long. I plan on releasing more music soon, but I've released a lot of music from a lot of genres, including a lot of hip hop over the years, because me and my crew of friends used to run a little studio. And I will continue to get back into recording because that won't ever, if I start releasing music, detract from my videos because I already spend a good portion of my day working on writing lyrics and making beats and playing instruments. And so at some point, I'll just start recording that a little more and releasing it for you guys, as well as releasing links to some of my old stuff I released, including I'm not joking here, 13 full, and I call them mixtapes, but they were album length, but a lot of them were over other people's beats. 13 mixtapes I dropped in 2013. I'll show you guys about that later. I'm not joking. So yeah, they have called me Jack Harlow, and it's ironic. I want to rap battle him. Nothing against Jack Harlow. He's a decent, pretty good rapper, but I will beat him in a rap battle. So someone set that up. Modulus is fascinating. Project with public key cryptography, cracking ciphers and primes. Just reading through some of these comments, look into it. Yep, super interesting. All the aspects that modular arithmetic can have. It can apply to cryptography and ciphers, which are super interesting. Even apart from cryptography being used to like hide passwords and stuff, I just find it interesting. Like, how would you hide something in a code? How would you encode something? How do you make something difficult to get to but possible to get to? I've written codes for fun in the past. So very cool, and they do relate to modular arithmetic. like a lot of stuff does. A lot of patterns about prime numbers, for example, can be broken down into patterns about modular arithmetic. Now, you love the curiosity. Thank you. Curious thing to collect. My favorite and strongest area. I would say probably number theory, but really, I would say more just recreational mathematics. I have tons of fun facts up my sleeves I've collected over the years about numbers and shapes and things, and science, animals and plants and stuff. And so I would say recreational mathematics, maybe because I have a surface level view of everything. And then I have a slightly deep view of certain fields, including one of my favorites being number theory, which is a funny name for a field for those who don't know much about math. They're like, number theory, isn't that most of math? But number theory often relates to only studying integer or whole number solutions to certain equations. And it's super interesting because it's simple, but that simplicity does not prevent it from being deep. And I don't mean simple in terms of like the proofs are simple. I just mean the questions sometimes are simple. The answers can be incredibly complex. And we can hear the train in the background. I live by the train. I'm always dodging sound effects out here. Um, uh, let's see what else we got here. Math music. My music isn't super math oriented. There are like lines about math. It's very mathematical in structure. I like multi-syllabic rhyming. Um, and there are certainly lines that are math related, but it's not like a song that teaches about math. I kind of keep those separate. I honestly find that a little cheesy if there's like, this song taught you the thing. They can be done well, like Schoolhouse Rock was cool. It can be done great. However, for me personally, I kind of keep them separate. I want my music to be funky or slap or touch you in a certain way. And I want my videos to teach, but there will certainly be math references in my lyrics. Sometimes I have fun seeing like, how can I make a math line try and sound like badass or punk? Um, Math metal, I don't really do metal as much, although it can be incorporated a little bit into my stuff. Honestly, these days I'm really into trap rap. I love like rap out of Michigan and stuff and some of the harder stuff. However, what I make is a little hard to explain, sort of like elements of trap rap, funk, classical, rock, all sorts of stuff, old school hip hop. Um, what do the watches represent? I don't actually have that many watches. I have more so clocks. I think the band, like I've gotten into debates with my friends over how many watches could I like accumulate here and count them toward my clock goal. You'll learn more about my clock goal in the next video, in the next like a full main channel combo class episode. But watches, I don't want to count that many of them because the bands and the tininess kind of make me feel different about them. I like never wear a watch, ironically. All my clocks I like stopped. Watches are harder to stop sometimes. And so I don't know. I'll get some watches at some point, but I'd rather have like a pocket watch that like goes on a chain than like one that goes on your wrist. Uh, and then I'll hang a bunch back there. Yeah, it's incredible. Someone said about how much stuff comes out of studying just integers. Yep. For example, Fermat's last theorem. Let me read one more comment and then I'll do a little anecdote about that, a little math anecdote. All the way back from proving square root 2 irrational, someone said. Now back up to number theory. And yep, and after graduating, they appreciate the field more. Some people get that where, sometimes when you're studying under a certain set of rules or a set of expectations or goals like school can have, sometimes it can suck a little of the fun out of it. Like I said, nothing against school. However, my funnest moments were not of learning, weren't in school. They were from investigating things, or sometimes from reading, and often from writing, and often from looking at plants and stuff. Now, to go back to the stuff about studying just integers being interesting, really do a few comments. One fun story of that is Fermat's last theorem. If you look at a squared plus b squared equals c squared, that's the classic Pythagorean theorem. And we know from right triangles like the 3, 4, 5 triangle that there are many of them. In fact, an infinite amount of integer solutions to that. A's, B's, and C's that work where the a squared plus the b squared equals the c squared. Now, they wanted to prove that you couldn't do it with a to the 3 plus b to the 3 equals c to the 3, or any a to the n plus b to the equals c to the n, where n was greater than 2, and they were all integers. Now, that was something that seemed likely over time as they investigated and they couldn't find any solutions, but to prove it was a magnificent effort. And it began from someone named Pierre de Fermat back in the day. And Fermat, before he died, wrote a margin note in one of his books, full of great proofs and stuff. This little margin note said that he had come across a magnificent proof, a simple, beautiful proof that this a to the n plus b to the n equals c to the n was impossible when n was greater than 2 for integers, and that it was the margin was too small to fit the proof. And it ended there, and then a bit later he died. And then they're like, wait, what was the proof? What was the proof? And these days, after we've seen how it was proved, which wasn't until 1993, a long time later, in 1993, the method to prove it was so complex that it's most likely that Fermat got it wrong and had a proof that was not actually fully correct or did not actually hold full water in proving that. Or possibly he was just messing with people and trolling them. You never know. But who knows if Fermat had a proof or not, but finally it was proved in 93 using an insane amount of effort and look into these fields called elliptic forms or modular forms and elliptic curves and all sorts of super high level math that is even above my head and above most mathematicians' heads. What's in that proof that Andrew Wiles put out. And so it's what I like about that is how simple the question is, how complicated the answer is, but there was an answer and we got to the bottom of it. I also made a full episode for those interested in primes a month or two ago on the main combo class YouTube channel that goes into proofs of proving very simply that there are infinite primes, which is a fun little exercise, proving very simply that there are infinite or arbitrarily large gaps between primes that can grow toward near infinitely large. We don't want to describe the gap as infinite, but an arbitrarily large gap, simple proof. And then questions like, do primes two apart, called twin primes, happen infinitely, are still unknown. So, let's see what we got here in the comments. Is my costume representation something or just being unique? You love it though. My lab coat protects me from the elements out here a bit. I probably wear it more consistently because I started wearing it on the videos that I'm probably now like more likely to throw it on for every video. But I always was wearing it or already was wearing it out here a bunch because there's all sorts of crazy stuff in this classroom. And like, I don't know if you can see, but I just like cut my nose on a tree here the other day, or maybe it was a clock. I'm not even sure. And so there's all sorts of wild stuff out here in the combo class. And so this actually protects me sometimes. Also, it gets like ink on it a bunch because the whiteboards, sometimes it just like, I wipe them off with the sleeves or just ink gets on it somehow. And then it protects my normal clothes. So not that I care that much about my normal clothes, but there are functional uses of the lab coat. And if you didn't see one of my more recent videos, I did get burnt clock on it filming the intro for the next episode, where I burnt clock's falling, where I burnt this clock, and you'll see the footage of that soon. But when I burnt that, I put it out with the lab coat, and so now on the inside of here, I have burnt clock on here too, and I also have one of my dice fused in here, so that's pretty dope. You see, I don't know if you can see very well, but one of the dice fused in there. It's getting really dark. I should have brought some candles. I lit candles out here when I was streaming on TikTok the other day, and they melted all over the desk because, the desk is diagonal, so things are going to melt weird. Um, so let's see what else is going on here. It's getting pretty dark, but I'm going to keep streaming while I still got a few of you asking questions. Who cares about the darkness? Worst case scenario, I will run off and grab a flame. Real quick, though, before I answer these comments, I want to know from you guys, is this facing the right way for you or the wrong way? So someone let me know if this is facing right or wrong way. So what do we got here? Mathematician just love it. Right way. Cool. So that's good because I wanted to at some point share my little I asked the question without the answer, or a question without an answer related to that I want to share the little answer, or for anyone who hasn't seen the video in a sec. But please, You'd expect something like complex numbers to be the thing that gives us questions that no one can solve for centuries, but it was the simplest form. Complex numbers, I think, too, have a lot of questions to them still, too. Yeah, sometimes the simplest ones do have the most complex questions. But complex numbers, I do think, are going to get a lot more investigation as the years go on. They were underrated, and I think the name imaginary and complex wasn't helping their case. They were named imaginary numbers as a diss, literally, by Rene Descartes historically. And he didn't like them, he didn't understand them. And if he had lived long enough, he would have probably understood them, because some of the people not long after him showed vastly great applications of them in ways that they are not much more imaginary than a negative number. And if you want to blow your mind, you can look up Gaussian integers, and which numbers you think are prime can actually be factored using complex numbers and which can't. That'll show up in an episode someday. Thanks for whoever loves the proof episodes. What's my major? I didn't end up majoring in anything. I took very unconventional routes. I studied all sorts of things, but I would say the thing I studied the most was a mix of number theory sort of things, logic. I really like propositional logic, and music, because music theory is something I also find very dear. And I play a lot of instruments for fun, and I teach a lot of music students as much of my day job. I have more music students than math students currently. Um, so what is one thing I want to prove or find the solution to? I have some really cool things I'm working on. I have a new thing called my pond forest sequences that I just kind of started inventing a week ago by like fiddling around with numbers. I'm not sure if anyone's messed with them before. I couldn't find them online, like a way of interpreting a sequence and generating new numbers. So I really want to see where those go. It was like this forest of numbers that got generated by a thing I made, and then by a simple rule. And I saw ponds forming of the number 2 and the number 6, and this river of the number 3s. And then it went down many rows, and then like 15 rows into the forest, the 2 lake glitched out. So I'll share that soon. I want to know about that. I want to know the twin prime conjecture. That one's pretty dear to me, and I think there's a lot of work going towards it these days. And it's likely that between these things called like the Polymath Project and work from James Maynard, from Terence Tao, and from other people, we are getting closer to cracking it. I really like this thing called the integer complexity, not that many people know about, where it's how many ones using just addition, multiplication, and parentheses, but you can form the parentheses however you want to add or multiply chunks of ones. How many ones does it take to build each number? There's some weird questions related to that, and that's a really underrated field, I think. Not even field, it's just like has barely any research. There's something called intransitive dice, which are dice that beat each other in a paradoxical way. I'll explain more in an episode. And I'm currently doing a little project to try and map more about all of the simplest types of them. So I think we should do more research into those. So those are some personal little challenges. I also have another thing where I'm looking at identifying factors of a number and iterated differences between them. So those are some personal projects. As far as other big math things, there's some really big, beautiful possible things on the horizon. There's like one huge one is I don't know. I won't even get into some of the bigger ones right now because there's so many beautiful questions. So I'm going to say one of my current favorites is twin primes. What is personally love mathematics, but also love sciences as well. And while I've seen me speak about plasma, will I be making more science-oriented videos? Yes, I definitely want to. So for science videos, I find it better to have some sort of proper representation of it. So when I'm able to travel around more, I don't know why I didn't get to this in this stream, but you guys probably don't know, but I'm recovering from surgeries. Went through 2 surgeries this year. I had an absolutely insane past couple years. It's been a really, really hard couple years. You guys see me on my happy moments where I film my videos because I have so much fun doing that. And I have a lot of other happy moments in the day. But I've had an insane couple years. And I had 2 surgeries this year. So I haven't been able to get out and about as much. I want to travel more to the marina and document some of the wildlife there. I want to do more little science experiments, which I can probably do back in this little combo zone. And I want to do all sorts of other science. I just know a little less about making a formal presentation with one without the right sort of prop or little subset of plant or animal or science reaction I know about. So I love science. I meant to include it originally as much as math. I just know a little more about math, and it's easier for me to show the whole math thing just using whiteboards. So yes, I plan to include a lot more in the future, definitely. Um, Someday I want to make science centers that also have math centers. It's a dream of mine someday to make centers that contain some really cool science experiments people can mess around with. It's getting really dark around here. I really should have brought some candles or something. Maybe I'll shine my flashlight on my face for a moment and get a little spooky. Let's see how that looks. So we'll get spooky for just a last little bit of a stream. So like I hinted at a second, I am going to say that I went through some surgeries this year. It's a whole wild saga you guys don't know about. I had a issue after an insane saga of a couple years ago that I'm not going to go into the full details for a little while because it's pretty personal and there's some dark moments, but I will go into that at some point. I ended up, unfortunately, with some health issues to recover from, and I try my best to be healthy these days. But I ended up with messed up bones in my legs, and I had to get them fixed to walk right. And it was at the top of my femurs. And I also broke the bottom of my femur a while ago. That was last year that I broke the bottom of my femur in an insane accident. And this year, I had to get two surgeries on the top of both of my femurs. Technically a hip surgery because it's right at the top, like where the femur is the big leg bone that I broke. And the top of it that was messed up on both sides. Now I have input with the doctor input, I mean, titanium and ceramics. So I'm not only a cyborg, but I'm also a ceramic borg. So there's a lot of stories I still have to tell you guys. But anyway, I haven't been able to get out and about as much recently. I live near a lot of cool wildlife that I want to document and tell you guys facts about as well. So that's a slightly scientific thing. It's dark there, it's bright there, here in Nepal, separated by distance, connected by maths. Yeah, thank you, my friend from Nepal. Always crazy how you can talk to someone and it's a completely different time of day there nowadays. That was not possible a couple hundred years ago, you know. For most of humanity, when you talk to somebody, it was the same amount of night or day between you two, or very close to the same amount, maybe if you yelled at them from a far hill. So, pretty wild that the internet can do that these days. I actually am not a tech whiz, despite being in my 20s. I don't know that much about tech. And so I have to figure out the internet like from scratch, like an old person each time. Not like the internet. There are things, once I learn something, I know how to use it, but I only learn the parts that relate to like filmmaking, learning math or music or one or two other things. So like I had to figure out how to live stream on here. I'm glad the things are even facing the right way. And so now, since we might wrap up before long, now that we're in spooky haunted mode, I'm going to share the little fun fact that's an answer to a puzzle that I dropped, even though people got it right in the comments. Good to confirm it and share a fun reason why it's right. So you see this stack of numbers. What does this add up to? Doesn't matter the exact number, but what does it add up to compared to this? Which one's more? Well, they're the flip of each other, kind of. You know, I could have put even zeros before these, like leading zeros that do nothing, to make them exactly symmetrical. So, of two symmetrical things, they've got to be different at least. So, which is more? But they're not different. They're the same answer. They add up to the same amount. And it might seem weird at first because even though we do have 9 1s, 8 2s, 8 2s, they're in opposite spots. These ones are in the like 10 millions place, and these ones are in the ones place. But if we look place by place, here we have 1 9 in the ones place. And in the ones place, we have 9 1s. In the tens place, 2 8s, 8 2s. Hundreds place, 3 7s, 7 3s. So it does equal out in a weirdly balanced way. They're the exact same number. The number they add up to isn't that notably looking. It doesn't look like a cool staircase or anything, but kind of neat that these are symmetrical but add up to the same. So I like little number staircases like that. It's a lot of fun ones you can experiment with. If you guys check out my episode about palindromic numbers, if you haven't yet, on the main combo class channel, we can see some cool palindromes of numbers that those remind me of, even though those are not palindromic. Just reminds me of little staircases, little things that look visual that a lot of people say, oh, that's base dependent. That's just because we're in base 10. And while it's true that certain staircases are only generated because of base 10 patterns, and I don't like base 10, I would rather be in base 6 or base 12. But these patterns can often be generated in any positional numerical base 2 or higher, all the typical types of base you could use. And so I think a lot of these patterns of cool staircases and cool things that like the number 11 and 9 does, I like analyzing beyond their base dependence to base 10 and seeing ways they would pop up in a way an alien might look at numbers. You know, in base 6, 5 is the new 9 and 7 is the new 11. But I'm going to get too carried away here. Hey, Professor Domotro, someone says, awesome to see a live stream. Thank you. Glad to have you here. I'm going to start doing these more often because I like ranting and chatting with my fans, answering questions and sharing some of my workflow and the weird ideas that don't get into my videos, or that either ideas that I'm not going to make a video about, or a topic I've recently done that I didn't fit everything into the video, which is very frequent because the videos, I actually make them all for the short ones. I have my whole other main channel, but here, the short ones are all under a minute. And usually it's hard to fit the topic in a minute. And often even on the first take, I don't get it in a minute. I'll often like ask the camera person who's with me, like, how long was that? And they're like, this was 1:10. And I'm like, let's redo it. Let's get it under a minute. And in a way it's for the algorithm, but in a way I like it because it makes me condense my thoughts, sort of like you're trying to make a poem shorter. Brevity is wit, as they say. So, you know, sometimes it does help to condense a thought, even if I'm forced to. So that's a game I like to play, making them under a minute for my daily ones. And then, although I can't promise them every day, I just do it whatever days I can because it's fun and because I like teaching. But the longer videos, you know, I get a little more time to explain things. And sometimes I want even more time than that and to be a little more casual. And that's what these streams are for. Love the rants, always down to tune in. LOL. Oh, people going wild in the comments. What's going on there? Something's wild in the comments. I gotta get rid of these weirdos. People, a lot of spam comments. It's wild what's on these apps. The funniest one was on the actual YouTube links when I was trying to post on this channel. There's a short video I made of this, but when I yeah, these are going wild. I'll just have to there we go. When I was trying to post in a link, the link to my channel, to my own channel on combo class bonus to tell people, hey, make sure you also know about the normal combo class channel with full episodes. Whenever I would post it in a link on YouTube and paste my channel name, it ends in combo class. I never thought that would bite me in the combo class, but apparently it already did. Well, when I posted the comments, and you can see a video I made about this a little while ago, that people thought I must have made this up, but I don't know how to computer program. It definitely didn't. And so out of the whenever I would post the comments, it would trim it and turn the link of youtube.com/combo class to, for some reason, a username of @ and then the last few letters of combo class. And it changed it so all the links I was posting said, check out my full videos at, and then the at symbol and ass, at ass. And I was like, what? No, that's not what my full videos are, at someone's username named at ass. And YouTube is just like the wrongest glitch to hit me at the wrongest time. And some people thought that the video I made about that recently was let me get this guy out. Some people thought the video I made about that recently was something I faked, like I computer programmed it, but I have no idea how I would even do that. And somehow there was just absolutely insane a glitch that hit me just wrong, where the last three letters of my channel name, being ass, happened to start posting my comments until I was careful and deleted it. So that was super bad. Why are there so many random people in the comments spamming random words? All right. Um, Hopefully got rid of them for a minute. I haven't been on the YouTube chat very quick, so I don't know how to like ban people very quickly. I think I accidentally just muted them for a minute and they came back. Um, yeah, I can tell most people are not bots. Just the ones who posted like 10 times. Have I done edibles? We're going to keep that confidential for now because I have a lot of younger viewers and students, so we may get into that in the future. Um, uh, why is the names going a million times? If people post a million times, I'm going to assume they're a robot. Um, So I'm going to wrap up this stream pretty soon anyway, but if anyone has any questions, they can feel free to ask. Because I love chatting with my fans. I could activate slow mode to undo spam. Yeah, maybe I'll look more into that next time if that's an issue. I don't really mind it unless it takes me too long and distracts me too much from the screen. So people can try and post crazy stuff, and I'll figure out the best way to make people who post 50 messages who are obviously robots stay out. Um, Anyone else have any last thoughts or questions? Next stream, we will probably be talking about tetration, the level beyond exponentiation, because that's coming up in an episode soon. Or maybe I'll explain a little more about that internet complexity or integer complexity thing, where you see for each number how many ones it takes to make it with just addition, multiplication, and parentheses, however you want to assemble them. There are things with that that seem like they would follow rules and patterns that I thought might be true when I was investigating it myself back in the day and didn't know its name, that turn out to have strange exceptions. So a lot of fun stuff to share later in the future. But I think I'm going to log off because it's 0 amounts of brightness out. If I turn off this flashlight or my phone dies, it will be pitch black. In any case, thank you for everyone except those weird robots for coming by my stream, or for anyone who happens to watch this later. I will do this a little more often for fun and maybe set up a frequent day of the week to do it in the future, and I'll let you guys know if that's the case. But I love you, YouTube guys, and all of my combo lords out there. Stay learning and stay excited and curious about all sorts of things, and I will have new videos for you very soon. And have a wonderful night.